mugwumps. They're everywhere. They're speaking out. Board meetings, City Hall, Town Square, Courthouse, State House, even the White House. They must be stopped. They are disruptors.
Welcome everyone to Mugwump Media. Welcome to Disruptor Central. Kevin, we got another thunderstorm with rain today.
We do, and rain brings life.
It's a blessing. The Osage used to say that was one of the things that they said was that rain is a blessing, no matter what the circumstance. Even if you get a lot of it, you're swimming around.
And cleansing.
I know. It's good to get some rain.
When Noah went in the ark, when he came out after all the rain had purged everything that was bad. You know what? I guess the world has been in worse shape than it is now at one time.
That is very true, for sure. Well, Kevin, we have a plethora of people down here in our basement bunker again today. It's an exciting day for us. Now, let's go ahead and get right into this and introduce our guest, too. First of all, right over here to my left is someone that you will recognize, you folks. He's here frequently, Mr. Brett Roussel, the tpusafaith community chapter leader from here in Ozark. So, busy young man. Now, Brett is 17. He is a remarkable, hardworking young man also, and getting involved in a lot of starting up of other clubs. And we're going to check in with Brett here in just a little while, and we're going to find out what's going on in his world. Busy, busy, busy. But first, we want to introduce you to a very special visitor to Mugwump Studio. Actually, Kevin, I think we have a recording of someone that you all might know, and we thought that you might enjoy it.
Okay, our guest tonight is just incredible. I've known Bill for quite some time. I believe Bill is the premier historian from a biblical standpoint in America. He has written well over 25 books from a Christian biblical standpoint, talking about American history and world history. I once shared a car ride with Bill for 2 hours, and I only stumped him on one question. And I must have asked him well over 400 of them. And he also connects what is happening in history to today with timeless biblical principles. Please join me in welcoming the amazing Bill Federer. Let it rip.
Folks, Charlie Kirk was quite a young man. And our guest that's here today, sitting straight across from me, was somebody who was a teacher and a mentor of, and not just him, but his son, Michael also, who's also here today, and hopefully you'll hear from him. This gentleman, Dr. William J. Federer, also known as Bill, he prefers to be called Bill, is a nationally known speaker, best-selling author, and president of Amerisearch, Inc., a publishing company dedicated to researching America's noble heritage. Bill's American Minute radio feature is broadcast daily across America and by the internet. His Faith and History television airs on the TCT network on stations across America and via DirecTV. Folks, whenever I found I went to his bio, which is what I often do whenever I interview folks that, popular personalities that folks might know across the nation. I was amazed at how much information there is about this gentleman. He's been around for quite some time. He's done a lot of things. Man, you talk about just an anointed and talented individual. He's been on a lot of television stations. He was a former U.S. congressional candidate. He was actually in the Missouri House, Kevin, in 2004. Represented his county, I believe Jefferson County. Bill's also appeared on lots of TV stations, Fox, NPR, TBN, CBN, MSNBC. Ooh, that must have been a trip. Newsmax, OAN, Real America's Voice, Stephen K. Bannon's The War Room, Hannity, O'Reilly, man, you name it, as well as the Charlie Kirk Show, of course. Charlie often had Bill on. We are so happy that you are here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
We're glad to have you. Mm-hmm. Now, I just wanted to talk first of all, like I said, an honor to have you here today. And man, you're a busy man. We were so honored that you were able to spend a few minutes with us this afternoon. Now, the first time that Kevin and I saw you speak was at the Cultural Impact Conference in Ozark last year, and I was hooked. I had never heard you speak before. You said something, you quoted from a book, The Kings. I can't remember exactly what the name is. I've got
Who
the
is
book.
the King in America?
Who is the King in America? You said something that was absolutely, it was, it changed something about the way I thought. You know, we all get angry because we feel like we're not being represented well. Well, we're not, but it goes back to who is the real king in America? Who's the boss?
Yeah,
Clarify
Romans 13. Romans 13, let everyone be subject to the governing authority. Who's the governing authority in a monarchy? The king. Who's the governing authority in the republic? The people. Right? So Romans 13 is understood differently in a monarchy versus a republic. In a monarchy, subjects submit to the king. In a republic, the people are the king.
Yes.
And so the message of don't get involved is you're producing a negligent king. Reminds me of the Lord of the Rings. There's a scene of this King Theoden with a spell cast on him. And he's got gray hair, gray eyes, and long, beard. And the two counselors, one is a guy named Wormtongue that tells the king to stay asleep. And another is Gandalf, and he comes in and casts the devil out of the king, and they do the special effects, and he wakes up, and his eyes get clear, and he looks around and says, "Dark have been my dreams of late." It's like, yeah, you've been out of it with this spell cast on you. Well, who's the king in America? It's the people, right? The word citizen is Latin, comes from the Greek word polites, which pol means city. And so polites is the people that live in the city, but it means more than that. It means that they participate in governing.
Yes.
It's called popular sovereignty. The population is the sovereign.
Yes.
And anyway, so who's the king in America? It's the people. So here you have some counselors to the king saying, stay asleep, don't get involved in politics, and just enjoy your own personal relationship with the Lord. And other pastors throw ice water on their congregation and says, no, you're in the republic, you're the king, you're the citizen. You don't just have a right to vote, you're going to be held accountable to God for what happens. And so we wrote a book called Silence Equals Consent, The Sin of Omission. Same way you're silent at a wedding ceremony, you're giving your consent, right? Speak now or forever hold your peace. If you're silent when they're killing kids, you're giving your consent.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're silent when they're mutilating children, you're giving your consent. Leviticus 20 says, any Israelite who sacrifices a child of Molech to be put to death, if any member of the community closes their eyes when that man sacrifices a child of Molech, I myself, the Lord, will set my face against him and his family and cut them off from their people together. All you got to do is close your eyes while your neighbor kills the kid, and you are cut off.
That's right.
Proverbs 24, rescue those who are unjustly sentenced to death. Don't stand back and let them die. Don't disclaim responsibility by saying you didn't know about it.
Yes.
For God, who knows all hearts, knows yours. He knows that you knew, and he's going to hold you accountable.
Man, that is well said.
Yep. So mugwumps, you know what? They had a reputation of kind of being against things and contrary. You know, they were accused of all these things. And, you know, I've kind of been refreshed lately because I've always spent my life being accused of not being cooperative. Being from Missouri, the show me state, you know what? It just kind of made sense to me. But the more I realized that's actually a biblical principle because we're supposed to question things. We're supposed to go ahead and
the show me state.
There you go. There you go.
Better show me. You want me to believe it? You better show me.
Mark Twain, one of the mugwumps, he was one. Mark Twain's a character from Missouri, and anything Mark Twain said, there's a lot of thought behind it, and there's sometimes multiple meanings. But one thing he said that is so true today is if you read the newspapers, you're uninformed. If you don't, let me back up. If you read the newspapers, you are misinformed.
That's it.
If you
That's
don't
it.
read the newspapers, you're uninformed. There's a choice we've got here. There's information, and information is everywhere, and it's time for God's people to begin to bring the truth into all of those conversations.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah. Do you know the history of the mugwumps? And I don't want to take up too much time because I want you to.
I do, but share it for the listeners that aren't familiar with it.
Yes, and I like I said, I want to hear you. But it was Grover Cleveland. He was the only other non-consecutive two-term president other than our present president,
We've got
the one
one
they're
again,
protesting
yes.
today in the rain.
Two-term non-consecutive.
That's right, and Grover Cleveland. And what was funny, I drug out my old paper that I originally scrawled on him. I was so fascinated when we first started. We called it Mugwumps Media. The Mugwumps were They were believe it or not, they were a very conservative, this was 1884, they were a conservative bunch of Republicans that split off from the Republican Party. And what had happened is 20 years after the Civil War, the Democrat Party had basically been crushed, of course, after the Civil War. Well, you know what happens when you only have one party rule and you don't have two healthy parties keeping each other in check.
Yeah.
If you go back and read the history, by 1884, patronage was rampant. And you know what patronage is? It was buying and selling of seats and positions of power. And it was the Republican Party that was doing it. And the Mugwumps were a group that originally formed under his hero, Mark Twain, another Missouri boy like yourself. You're from St. Louis. But they decided that they were done just going along with the party line. And of course, in 1884, they had, oh gosh, I can't even remember who it was. It's been a while since I read it, but it was a gentleman that he was running against that had been brought in, during the process of electing or choosing someone to be the presidential candidate.
A man that definitely stuck to party lines.
Yes, and he definitely stuck to party lines, and they were not happy with him. They decided that they did not want to vote for this man. They didn't want to back him. So they basically looked around for somebody else, and who should they find but a Democrat? Grover Cleveland. I looked up the Smithsonian long ago, several months ago, and basically they called him Grover the Good. And believe it or not, this Democrat was very Trump-like. He was similar in many ways to Trump. He was pretty conservative. He was a union buster. Boy, he got in trouble for that too. But he was someone that actually, whenever he was making up the things that he wanted, whenever he was choosing the things that he wanted to legislate, he said, I wanted to create solutions to problems with a business perspective. So he was definitely somebody that was very Trump-like. Well, what did the Republican Party in 1884 do? They decided to put his name in the newspapers, talk about how bad he was. Apparently at some point he'd had a drunken girlfriend and he had an illegitimate child. It wasn't accepted well in 1884. But again, who do we know that is now our president that has kind of a racy past, but he is a great businessman and is a great president and was a great president. But anyway, they decided that they were going to vote for Grover Cleveland. And of course, the Republican Party at that time went to all the newspapers, smeared his name, and they proceeded to draw up this horrible cartoon of a bird, like a vulture, with its ugly head hanging over one side of the fence and its rear hanging over the other side. They said, you're just a bunch of fence sitters. We're going to call you mugwumps. And of course, what did Mark Twain say? But he said, we'll take it. We're going to wear that like a badge of honor. We are the mugwumps. So that period of time was, in many ways, was very, very similar to what we've got now. He ended up being defeated in the election in 1888 with Benjamin Harrison, and it was for various reasons. Part of it was because tariffs. He wanted tariff reform. Benjamin Harrison wanted to ram the same thing through. And also he vetoed a pension plan that was socialism, the first of the socialism. Now, it wasn't for a bad cause.
You know what? This is starting to sound like a news report from today.
And it was not that it was a bad cause, but he was fearful of the way that it was going to go, and he was fearful the fact that they were putting out all this money. Benjamin Harrison actually was one of the highest. He was the first guy, the first president that actually drove up the expenditures of the government to $1 million.
I think it was $1 billion.
It was
extreme.
It was the very first time that they had gone that far in expenditures. So he was a big spending Republican. But anyway, that was how he ended up getting defeated. Civil War pension legislation. He was concerned about it. And because of that, it went against the grain of the people. So he was defeated. But then this guy, everybody was so unhappy with him that they ended up voting for Grover the Good, again in 1892. So that's kind of the history of the Mugwumps. Now, we decided that rather than an ugly vulture, that we were going to have the American eagle.
Yes.
That sounded much better to
We're
me.
just going to go ahead and embrace it and continue the Missouri tradition.
I love it, yeah.
Yes, but that's the history of the mugwumps. And it was, at that time, it was Republicans crossing over to vote for a good Democrat. And in 2024, it was Democrats crossing over to vote for a common sense Republican. In many ways, it's that same swing. It's the pendulum swing that happens.
Yes.
A turning. And very, very unusual and very interesting. But I caught that early on and just absolutely loved it. Anyway, Charlie Kirk, I wanted to talk just a little bit about him while we've got just a few minutes. He made a statement in his introduction video that he was in a 2-hour car ride with you, Bill, and he asked you about 400 questions and stumped you on only one. Would you mind to share a little of that story for our listeners?
Sure. So Foster Friess was a Christian billionaire and gave to our campaign when I ran for Congress years ago. And then he also began supporting Charlie Kirk, and he would have events at a hunting lodge in South Dakota every fall, and we would go out there, my son and I, and about a couple dozen eclectic type people. They had Tucker Carlson and Andrew Breitbart from time to time, and Ross Perot Jr. talk about flying around the world in his helicopter and then donating it to the Smithsonian. And but he invited Charlie Kirk a couple times, and Charlie talked about chasing Foster up a couple of flights of stairs at the Republican National Convention in 2012 and giving him his 2-minute pitch on engaging young people. And Foster said, "I like it, and I'll support you." Anyway,
I like the dramatic effect in the background.
Yeah. But Foster died, and we were at the funeral together. It was in Wyoming, and then we drove back to the airport, and it was like a 2-hour drive through the Wyoming mountains. And so we were in the same car together, and Michael and I and Charlie and the driver, and so he was just asking history questions. What about this? What about that? What about that? So he had me on his show a number of times. It's always an honor. And then he and Rob McCoy, his pastor, asked us to be a part of starting Turning Point Faith. We didn't move to Phoenix like they had asked because we had just moved to Florida, my wife and I, and she didn't want to move anymore. I've spoken at quite a number of Turning Point Faith events. It's always an honor. And then next year they decided to start Turning Point Education. Yes. And so it's called turningpointed.com, and we produce, my son and I, a weekly video called How We Got Here. So you can go to turningpointed.com, look at resources, and scroll down far enough, and you'll see how we got here, and put in your email, and you get it sent once a week. And we take all kinds of topics, Christopher Columbus, Booker T. Washington, what is socialism, and so, he texted. We were with him 4 days before we were shot in South Korea. There's a pastor named Pastor Son, and the communist-leaning new president of South Korea arrested him because he was organizing people against the trans agenda.
Yes.
And Charlie said, if they arrest you, I'm going to call President Trump. They arrested him 4 days after we left. And Charlie's staff says, okay, we're going to focus on this. We got one last student event in Utah, and then we're going to focus on this twisting, this politicizing of weaponization in South Korea against Christians. And obviously, that never happened. Right. But he would text scripture verses to other people, but I was one of the ones. And, I've got on my phone, dozens of years worth of text of him just texting a scripture verse. And I'd text one back, but the day before he was shot, he texted me 1 Corinthians 16:9 that there's a wide door of effective ministry open for me, but there are many adversaries.
Yes.
And my son and I were at the memorial, 75,000 people in a football stadium, 25,000 in overflow, 200 million streaming, and having the entire leadership of the United States there talking about Jesus. Hegseth, Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance. I mean, who else in the world, a 31-year-old die and have the entire world take notice? Rob McCoy gave the gospel. They estimate it was the largest number of people that heard the gospel at one time in world history. I think as more power concentrates into fewer hands globally, God's counterbalance is to get more people involved locally.
Yep.
Right? We all see these globalists, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, all these, and God's counterbalance, get more people involved locally. And so they've had over 160,000 requests to start Turning Point chapters all across the country and the world. That's why I'm so thrilled with what Brett is doing.
Yes.
I mean, this is the Holy Spirit raising up these young people.
That's right. That's right.
And Brett,
Yes. Oh,
Brett was there at that conference too. We didn't know him yet.
right.
Thank you for mentoring Charlie, and thank you for really, you didn't know it, but you were also mentoring Brett.
Yes.
So, Brett, what was in your heart when you started your chapter?
Well, I was at the Cultural Impact Conference where you
Yes.
spoke. I heard you speak. And then after you spoke, I went and walked around the booths, and there was a Turning Point booth there. And I started my chapter after hearing you speak at the Cultural Impact Conference.
Oh, God bless you.
Yes.
God bless you. Well,
So I started my chapter after that.
Well, you're going to do greater things than me. There you go.
Well, and our first Mugwump video was just an audio. And we were, like I said, we were pretty green, but we knew that God wanted us to speak because people in Missouri don't know what's going on.
Right.
They just don't. They're good as gold. People here are good and conservative, but our country is, our state is turning leftward.
Yes.
Because people are not paying attention. And what you said, I have a little orange notebook, and I took page after page after page. I loved what you said. It completely changed what I thought about the ownership, our ownership of our own country and our own state. And I talked a lot about that in the very first video. So you impacted multiple generations.
Well, in our whole community, after that Cultural
Yes.
Impact Conference, that was so key to the movement that was
pivotal.
going on here. We were all trying to figure out what to do. And we come and we heard you, and we heard several other speakers. We had senators.
Seth was
we
good
had,
too.
Oh,
Josh
yes,
Hawley.
Seth
Everybody
River,
was.
Josh Hawley. There's a lot of men that came, and those few men that came, the impact they had from that conference, it's just broken out into a wildfire in our county here. And that local stuff. I can't help but think that's happening everywhere, all across our nation right now, and across the world. Charlie in Korea, oh my goodness. Who'd ever thought just a year ago I was terrified. I thought we had a business, and I was trying to figure out how we was going to survive another 4 years of that, and knew it was not possible. Yet God's given us an opportunity, and He was laying a foundation in the middle of all that evil that was just taking over our communities.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested in your chapter. So tell us some more about your Turning Point
Yes,
chapter.
that was the next question. Thank
So
you.
I started the chapter last year after the Impact Conference, which was in August, I think, or October, not August, sorry. So I started the chapter, and then since then we grew. We ended our first year as a chapter, our first school year, with 54 members, and then after our teacher sponsor left Ozark, we had to move it to a county hub because we couldn't find a teacher sponsor. We couldn't find a teacher willing to sponsor us at the high school anymore. So we moved to a county hub. Since then, we've had hundreds of people reach out about getting involved with Turning Point in our chapter, just in Ozark and Nixa.
Praise God.
Yes, and we're having our first meeting in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And everybody is calling you. This is
Yes.
the man of the hour here. He's very busy. He's got a lot of people calling him, wanting his help.
They're starting chapters everywhere. They're starting a chapter in Nixa High School. They want to start a chapter in Sparta. They want to start a chapter in Taney County, Marshfield. Everybody wants to start a chapter.
You know, I saw a AI picture that somebody did of Charlie Kirk walking the steps to heaven
Yes.
to meet Jesus and turning around, passing the baton to hundreds of young people.
Yes.
And then a young person did a video, said, this is the turning point.
That's right.
Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears forth abundant fruit. Because this refers to Jesus, but in a sense, it refers to Charlie. Instead of there being one, we are all now Charlie Kirks,
Yes.
right?
That's right.
And I think I think as we get closer to the end, the answer is to have everybody be involved.
Yes.
And this is an exciting time.
Yes.
I often close my talks with the thought of someday you're going to be dead and in heaven, and you're going to be around all the great saints and Gideon and Moses and Esther, and then they're all going to look at you and say, "Tell us, what did you do?"
Right.
You know, and this is our chance to be those courageous leaders.
That's right.
Yes.
This is our time. I love that. You said that today.
Yes.
It's our turn. I agree.
Such a time as this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Anything
you
else in the
share anything?
future? Oh,
Yeah.
We've got
Michael, come
Yes.
here. We're going to introduce Michael also. This is Bill's son.
Yes, well, it's an honor to be with you here. And as I mentioned this morning, it is great to be back in Missouri. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and I work with my father now. So you'll find me in Florida right now. But
Yes.
I do see something special happening here.
Yes.
I'm very impressed with Brett as
Thank
well.
you. Yes. Thank you.
And I got to say, I'm not sure what all the viewers watching can see, but this is a beautiful studio. And you were mentioning, Kevin, that you made cabinets. And I'm going to need you to make some cabinets for me. I think this is a pretty beautiful place you have here.
That was
I'll
his
have to
former
schedule
job.
that.
This was an old one-room cabin from the 60s.
Really?
And he tore it all out and just redid it all. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, we talk about coming back to Charlie. I thought there was one special moment amidst everything that had happened that did warm my heart, and if you'd like, I'll share that here.
Yes.
Do, please.
Yes.
But so we were in South Korea, and so we flew into Incheon, and within an hour we were in Busan. Now my father did mention it, but we were at an event put on by Mina Kim, and it's called Build Up Korea. So I will urge your audience to, of course, pay attention to what's going on here in Missouri and in the United States, but also take a look at what's happening in South Korea. I won't get into it for sake of time, but please do some research. But Mina Kim put on an event called Build Up Korea. Now, if anyone's been to an America Fest, you know what to expect. These are phenomenal events. This is the real deal. The speaker introductions, loud, bright lights, fireworks. Why do I say this? Well, when Charlie made it to Seoul, Korea, and walks into this Build Up Korea event, I saw something that warms my heart more and more the more I think about it. He takes a look at us and a look at me, and he takes out his phone, and he kind of does just a quick little pan video, and he says, "This is so cool." And at that moment, it dawned on me that in his lifetime, he at least got to see that he was so much more than an acute change in the United States. He was much more than just helping a crucial election. He saw that he had become the blueprint for how to connect your faith to stewardship of your nation, of your family, your community, and your nation. And so it is so special that I got to witness that moment. And we are so impressed to see what's happened. Turning Point is growing at a rate that I had never anticipated.
Yes.
I mean, there is something phenomenal. We see signs of revival, and we're praying that it becomes a full-blown awakening. So with your help and what you're doing, answering the call to cater to your audience here in Missouri, I believe we're just getting started here, really.
I think so. And,
I do too.
Oh my
I do
goodness!
too.
I'm just going to say that revival it has already started. The swelling's going, and we're living in the most exciting time this world's ever seen.
Amen.
And we're not about to take things. We are taking things. God's people are stepping up.
Yes.
And all it takes is a remnant. The 2 that came back out of Canaan and gave the report. We need to. You know what? The 2 in our state has turned into 10. In our state capital.
In our state,
and that
in the
10
House.
started
Yes.
with 1 that was Mike Moon. We've got the 10 that we call the remnant. And then there's also, I think we're going to have 20, 40, 60. You know what?
Yes.
It's time for God's people to step up and take our nation
Come on.
back.
Yes.
That's right.
We're called to lead the world. We're
Right.
not supposed to be following them to hell.
Right.
We're supposed to be leading them to Christ.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
And we're hearing it. We're hearing it.
You're absolutely right, and I also want to say I'm impressed with Brett. You've got a young leader
Yes.
here. He's a Missourian. Let me pause that. Yeah, I'm very impressed with Brett here. You've got a formidable young leader.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see what happens with his chapter.
Yes.
And I gave him my cell phone number and
Yes.
said, if you have any history questions, you
Yes.
reach out to me personally.
Yes.
So.
I see a little bit of David. I see a little bit of Joshua. I see a little bit of Caleb. These young men now, I love the fact that they're just stepping up and they're speaking the things that we didn't. It's
Well,
yeah.
And the neat thing about Brett is he's glass half full.
Yes.
So many people
Oh,
just
yeah.
want to complain and, Eeyore, ooh, everything's terrible. But anytime you approach him and you ask him what's going on, he said, people are turning. There's a turning. He said, there's
Yes.
good stuff. There are people listening that weren't before.
Yeah.
And he said, There's an increase in the bad stuff, but there's definitely an increase in the good stuff.
That's,
It's more.
that's a superpower. That resilience,
There you go.
that attitude of gratitude.
Yep.
Yeah.
There are so many people that have been discouraged when if they would just possess a quality like that, they would say, you know what, we can find a way around this.
Right.
And this is a very important and critical time right now. We've seen how the youth impacted the previous election. Now that's afforded us some time to get the country back on track.
Yes.
But that's what it's done.
yeah.
It's
That's
afforded
right.
us some time to get to work.
Right.
So
We got to keep going.
yeah, so I do want to
sure.
say once more, Turning Point Education, this is a phenomenal resource.
Yes.
You know, any Turning Point chapter, please check that out. That's going to equip you with some great relevant information to make sense of what's going on in modern day
Yes.
and what's happening today.
I wanted to ask you that too. Okay, so that's where they can go to get those wonderful videos.
That's right.
Okay, could you give us that website again?
Thank you so much. Yeah. Turningpointed.com. You can also get there through our website, AmericanMinute.com.
Okay.
Go to the resource tab at turningpointed.com. It's how we got here, and it's just that. It explains how we arrived here.
Very good.
And we wanted to keep it kind of a short and sweet title. And this year we're focusing, since it's 250 years this year, we're focusing on characters and figures that contributed to the America that you see today.
Good.
And if you pause these, you'll find historically accurate documents, places to go. If you're a teacher of any capacity, this is basically a whole lesson plan. You can watch the 8-minute lesson and become an expert that way, but you can also dig into these things and stretch it out as an entire class. So thank you for that opportunity to mention
and
that.
books. This gentleman's books. His books are wonderful. And the videos. You've got videos also. Where can they go to get the books and videos?
Thank you so much. Again, AmericanMinute.com for everything Bill Federer and Team American Minute. Bill and I put out a book recently that we're just now doing interviews on. So this will be one where we mention courageous Christianity. Now, it's a fascinating book. My father has written over 30. I've helped him with several. I've got my name on a couple of them there now. But this one, it kind of begins with Charles Finney. And we're talking about the Second Great Awakening.
Yes.
And so Charles Finney is a lawyer turned preacher, and he preaches like a lawyer. He would build a case and then invite you to make a decision right then and there. He says, if you're serving the devil, I invite you to serve the Lord openly. He invents altar calls. And then his sermons are so powerful that young George Williams, 22 years old, goes on to start the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association. And this, within 9 years, it's an international organization. You have things like basketball being created out of the YMCA, volleyball created, the origins of Black History Month. And basically what I'm trying to highlight is that if one person is obedient in the Lord's timing and says, you know what, instead of waiting till I'm ready, I just feel this tugging on my heart, I'm going to go ahead and answer that call. The Lord can multiply your efforts like you would not imagine. So it's the story of one person acting. It reads almost like dominoes knocking into one another, but you see this awakening happen just from the obedience, of people listening to the Lord and saying, yes, I'll accept that call.
Yes.
Very
That's
good.
awesome.
Wow.
Very
Yes.
good. Very good.
Yes.
Brett, did you have anything to add about any thoughts to add?
Thank you guys for doing the podcast with us, and thank you for the meeting this morning. It was good to hear you guys speak. It was a blessing.
Oh.
The books, the message, it was good.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
We've got just a few minutes here, and I
Yes.
tell you what, if we didn't have such a busy schedule today, I would love to stay here and do 1, 2, 3 episodes. This is we have a great group here.
Yes.
And Brett, thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
There was
Yeah.
this period where we were traveling, and we thought, you know what, we're able to add knowledge to anyone who sees this big picture already.
Yes.
But there is something completely different and so inspiring to me, Brett, to see that these messages are not lost on the next
Right.
generation.
Right.
So I'm very excited about this, young man. I'm excited about
Thank you.
Mugwump Media and what
Yes.
you're doing here, and it's an honor to be here on your show with you.
Well,
Thank you guys
so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill, also. And
Yes.
thank you, John, for hooking
Yes.
us up. John Vaughn.
John Vaughn's
We're
going
gonna
to
have-
be back in a few episodes.
He's going to be
here.
back, and we want to get
Yep.
him and Brett are going to have to do some talking,
Yes.
some
Yes.
sparring, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Father,
All right.
anything else you'd like to add to this?
I guess.
We'll put you in the microphone so we
And
can
then-
make
and then
it
we'll
up.
wrap it up.
There we go.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just want to thank all the listeners for listening, and that this is a exciting time to be alive.
Yes.
It's a call for each of us to step forward.
Yeah.
And the Bible says that we're the bride of Christ, and every romance novel builds up to what? A decision-making moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
A forsaking of all others and choosing the one. I think God's pushing the world to a decision-making moment. And some people are going to choose the all others.
Yes.
They're going to want to be liked and friended and followed. And there's the rest of us say, I don't care what anybody else says. I'm going to serve Jesus.
Yes.
Right? And we were with Charlie in South Korea, and he says, I got one last thing to tell you. Put Jesus first in everything
Yes.
you do.
Yes.
And so this is,
Yes.
again, an exciting time to be alive, and
Yeah.
we're thrilled to be a part.
Yes. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
guys
so
so
much.
much.
Yes.
All right. Well,
And you've got an open invitation. Anytime you're
Yes.
traveling through, let us know, and we would love to sit down and visit with you more.
We want to see the cave next time.
We can make that happen.
we can
Yes.
make that.
All right,
Yes.
we'll pencil it in.
All right.
Well, folks, thanks again for joining us today. And, make sure that you come back next week. Bring your friends with you. Take your shoes off, grab whatever beverage you like, sit down and enjoy a Sunday afternoon with the Mugwumps. And folks, when we come back and get together again, we're always going to bring you information. We're going to bring you conversation. We're always going to try to be honest and encouraging to you because, folks, that's what we all need is encouragement.
Yes.
And we're always going to strive to keep you informed, inspired, and always stay independent. God bless.